Hi guys, I'm Nathan Buffa.
And I'm Rick King. We're going to be joined by, from the comic corner of TheGamersHub.net, Mr. Andy Brookins, a.k.a. Andy Blaze. Come on in, Andy.
And Andacious Andy.
What's up, guys?
Right now what we're going to do is we're going to do a comparison of all of Sony's consoles. We're going to talk about the years they came out, basically giving you what they had to offer at the time, and how it has evolved over the years. We're going to start off with the PS1.
Now, the PlayStation 1 came out in the United States in September 9th of 1995, with a later release date of the 29th, September 29th of 1995. It sold in its lifetime 100 million units, and in front of it you can see we actually have the controllers, the one that it started with originally, and then evolving towards what we see as the standard today, pioneering the use of thumbsticks, which you now see on some of its other competitor consoles. It was a 32-bit system, and at the time it was competitive with the likes of the Sega Dreamcast and I guess kind of the 32X, if you want to consider that actually competitive. What were some of your favorite memories of the system, or was there a specific game you remember, Andy, from the PlayStation 1?
Now, this is gonna, I feel like jumping to this right away, but I know it's like the worst thing to do. Crash Bandicoot. Like literally my first game on it. I remember trading in my Sega for the Toys R Us dollars. And literally you take the Toys R Us dollars, you put it towards this, and they give you Crash Bandicoot for free. And I played that for days.
That's amazing.
Days.
For me, the PlayStation 1, I actually didn't have it for very long, and I didn't have a lot of games for it. Aside from Final Fantasy, which is one of my favorite series of all time, and I'm an original Final Fantasy from Final Fantasy 1, big fan. For me, it would be and Breath of Fire. It would actually be Destruction Derby.
Yeah.
Destruction Derby on the PlayStation 1. It was just a terrible game of smashing cars together until they didn't run anymore. But I don't know why. That was like one of my favorite games. Me and my brother-in-law, we used to play it just over and over again in the bowl, where everybody starts out, smashes in. That is like definitively my memory from the PlayStation 1.
Mine is, when my parents got it, they thought it was an adult system, so they also bought it with Tekken. I would always watch them, and they would never really let me play, but when they would go to sleep, I'd always sneak up and start playing it and stuff like that. And it took them all the way to Tekken 3 to finally let me play it, and when I finally did play it, let's just say I completely destroyed them, and it was just the best time of my life. And then finally they were like, okay, Nathan, you can have this system because you obviously, are enjoying it so much, so it's all yours.
It's yours.
It's yours. Take it. Anyways, I would also like to point out how this is set up. We have an open button, which would open up, which would have the disc tray. The eye right here. There was a huge problem with the first edition of the PlayStation. The eye was actually made out of plastic, and as it heated up, obviously, it would wear. So a lot of people were complaining about, it stopped working after a certain amount of time. When they released a slimmer PS1, they fixed that problem because they added a metal eye. We also got the power button on the side and the reset button above the power button. Back here, there was no HDMI, obviously, for this system, but there was component cables and a plug-in in the back.
AV cables.
Yeah, AV cables. And there was also, if I remember correctly, a place to stick Game Shark in the back here. But I don't see it. I thought it plugged right in here. This must be...
Oh, yeah. No, that was later models.
That was the later model?
I actually have that model.
Yeah, I thought I had that, but never mind. But yeah, Game Shark used to actually plug in here. If you remember Game Shark, it used to put codes into games, but just by, cheats in the games by putting a code into the thing. That's cool.
And the PlayStation 1 and the PlayStation 2 actually shared a power cord, with the shape being squared on one side and round on the other, something that changed in later systems of the PS3 and the PS4. But that was the cable that would last you for the PlayStation 1, the PlayStation 2, which we have sitting right in front of us.
The PlayStation 2 is just phenomenal. It came out October 26, 2000 in North America. Also November 24th, 2000 in Europe. The slim version of it, which is right here presented before us, November 2004 North America, and October 29th, 2004 Europe. So we were able to get it, I believe, at the first, right? That was, yeah. So Europe had to wait for this magnificent machine.
In its lifespan, the PS2 has sold over 155 million units. It's one of the, it set the standard for consoles. Xbox just couldn't compete with it. Dreamcast, unfortunately, was the PS2 was the Dreamcast downfall.
Unfortunately,
the PS2, they offered DVD. Dreamcast didn't. Dreamcast had phenomenal graphics at the time, but PlayStation 2 was just, it was the true next gen at the time. It offered what people wanted. It offered DVDs, and that was huge at the time. So to have one of these, to be able to play DVDs, especially with DVD players being the same price as this, pretty much, this was a steal.
And not even that. It's just the fact that the games for the system itself was just so varied. Like, you can literally one day go into GameStop and pick up, like, a flight simulator, and then the next thing pick up basketball, and then you can be a cook in another game. It literally, the PS2 had so many different games that you can play on it. It was crazy. No other system ever offered that many different stuff you can do on the system. It was pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, I think it definitely did have the most titles of any console up to that point. Yeah. And main difference with this, this compact model is, for those of you who remember, I actually had one myself of the original PlayStation 2, and you actually had to buy a network adapter to attach to the back of it to go online. I bought that adapter and don't remember actually ever going online.
It was only used when the Final Fantasy came out for it.
And Here's a New Earth also offered us a little online thing.
It came out in a set where it would give you the hard drive that you slipped in the back, along with the game, the disc, and everything. And it was like a 2-hour install or a 2-hour like download.
And then with the slim model that we have here, the one that came out in 2004, it was actually built into it. The other thing you'll notice, this yellow circle right there, is that it had more the classic round AC adapter, getting away from the two-prong that all of the other systems had and still have now. This one was the only one that stepped away from that. And then it also used new AV ports as well. So going back to the same thing we said about the PlayStation 1, what's your memory from the PlayStation 2? A game or a time?
Day one, Soul Weaver. Boom. That's it. Like, Soul Weaver was the game that I played, once again, for days.
And how about you, Nate?
Final Fantasy X. I remember getting that game. I just sat there for 2 days straight, just playing it, so engulfed in the story. I love Final Fantasy X. It was, I know a lot of people say that, but it was still, to this day, my favorite RPG. I still got the game case over there. Original edition.
I think for me, it's actually the bookends of the system. For me, it's launch title called Eve of Extinction.
I remember you talking about that.
That is still, to this day, one of my favorite games. It was just this amazing action game that you would, switch weapons, and every weapon basically was like a ripoff of a lightsaber. He started out with a sword, and then it turned into a bow staff, and then he had like dual sticks, and then he had batons, tonfa. That game, definitely. I absolutely love that game. All the combos in it, I really think that game was ahead of its time. I've been praying, even though, we're going back quite a few years now, and they're obviously not going to make a sequel. Man, I've just been praying for a sequel to that game. And my other big one, I said a bookend. That one's the beginning. End of the console, Final Fantasy XII. Absolutely loved Final Fantasy XII. It really was kind of the end of the era for me. 10, honestly, was the end of the era, but 12 was telling me that, Final Fantasy was ready to go in a new direction, and it was really the last game I played on the PlayStation 2.
Next, we have the PlayStation 3. A lot of you guys know the PlayStation 3 because currently we're still in that generation until November 15th, 2013. Right now we have a PS3, a slim PS3. PS3 originally came out in November 17th, 2006 in North America. Europe got it in March 23rd, 2007.
Seems like yesterday.
Yeah, I know, exactly. The original one, it first came out as a 20 gig model and a 30 gig model. 20 gig and a 60 gig, sorry. they had silver trim and silver lettering of PlayStation across the top. They said that the font kind of resembled Spider-Man, and it did.
It did.
We're not gonna lie.
It did.
It had
The system came with Spider-Man.
Yes,
Yeah.
it did. And then it had gold trim right over here where this was. They didn't actually have buttons to eject games. It was all like, what was it, pressure sensitive?
Yeah,
buttons?
pressure sensitive. So basically, you would just either just lightly touch it with your finger, and it would just do what it needed to do.
When they were first released, the 20 gig models were $499, and the 60 gig models were $599. That was a lot of money. But if you think about it, I mean, the at launch, I should add, they sold out. It was, I mean, they had a dangerous launch. People were getting shot with BB guns, stabbed. There were people getting trampled at stores. It was just chaotic. But the reason why it was so expensive is that it added backwards compatibility. Not only could you play PS1 games on this, you could also play PS2 games. Not on this model. This is the Slim. On the other
Unfortunately.
ones. Some 80 gig models also offered that. So basically, you got 3 systems for the price of one. This system also moved to Blu-ray. Sony now owns the rights to Blu-ray. They took it up. Blu-ray is obviously much better and can hold a lot more than DVDs can. And this system it took off really good, and then it just died down, unfortunately. Lack of games and stuff like that, the price, everything. And then once they started releasing slim models, it started to pick back up. They started getting, games like Uncharted, God of War, and like those, well, God of War was PS2, but like God of War 3 and everything came out, and it just picked right back up. I mean, Sony wasn't doing too good in the console war during the beginning of this console, generation. It's had some tough times. It's only sold 80 million units a day. Well, only, that's still a lot of units.
Yeah.
It's sold 80 million units today, but it still has a bright future. It still has a lot of good games coming out. They said they're still going to support the PS3. So, about this, what was your best time, Rick?
Well, of the PlayStation 3, it's hard to talk about it in terms of memory because it's almost like admitting that it's the past already, and it's here now.
Still,
so, I think as far as going back memory-wise, you've got that I'm currently still playing. I'm playing Diablo 3 on it right now, but going back, the reason I actually got a PlayStation 3 was for Call of Duty 4. I was never into first-person shooters, never. And Call of Duty 4 was the first one that, when I actually played it, it was enough to hook me to get a PlayStation 3. And I actually have had 2 PlayStation 3s. That it was worth it for me when I had one that didn't go so well. Not due to the fault of the machine, but actually I had a roommate who messed it up. So, not Sony's fault. But yeah, Call of Duty. And, Call of Duty, they've had so many Call of Duty titles on the PlayStation 3, and I've had every single one of them. And even knowing that first-person shooters are not my favorite game type, that's still, honestly, when I think of the PlayStation 3, the first thing that comes to mind is just all of the duties.
All of the duties.
All the duties.
What about you, Andy? What was your favorite?
Like Rick said, there's really, not a way to date it as the fact that it's still going. I actually had to wait a long time to get my PS3. I didn't get my PS3 till Last of Us. Well, yeah, till Last of Us came out, and I literally had to buy a PS3 for that because it's a fantastic game. It made me go out and spend the extra money just to get a system. I actually don't have this model. There's actually a model after this one that has the sliding door that goes across, and literally I picked it up, bought Last of Us, and I had to backtrack through everything. So I got Uncharted 1, 2, 3. I got some of the HD collections of all the God of Wars and stuff just to catch up, and I don't regret it. Like, I play it more than anything now. Like he said, he's my Diablo buddy. We've been playing it every day now.
True.
So.
Mine has to be when I was first started reading about Uncharted, when they were talking about in the magazine how they were going to add wrinkles for the first time, when he's making, expressions, and how the clothes were going to get wet, and how you'd see the clothes move, and that just literally blew my mind. And then when I was actually playing the game, the first one's gameplay is not that mind-blowing. It's, it's like a typical third-person shooter. The second one's where it really takes off and becomes like an action movie. But the first one, it was just like rolling into mud puddles and seeing certain parts of your clothes get wet, seeing your t-shirt flex and bend when you're moving and climbing, and just Nathan Drake's voice acting, Nolan North, is just amazing. Like, it really, that game just set the standard for me at that moment, and I was just like, I'm in love with my PS3, and I don't regret anything from the PS3. It offered me nothing but good games, Heavenly Sword, stuff like that.
Fantastic
It's just
game.
yes, it's amazing. But yeah, so now it's about the time. It's almost time to release the PS4, which comes out obviously November 15th. I said it 7 times in this video. You can tell the major difference of this because the controllers are completely different. Up until PS4, all the controllers stayed relatively the same, except for the little trigger pressure sensitive buttons on the top.
And losing the cable, going wireless to Bluetooth. But yeah, I mean, from the original controller over there, they added the sticks, and then really they stuck with that design all the way through. And the old saying, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And it really wasn't broke. It's been a comfortable control all the way through. There wasn't a whole lot of improvements to have to make. And now we've got the PlayStation 4, where they've finally taken the biggest step, honestly, in the controller evolution, where you're going to have the microphone and headset can plug into the control. There's actually a speaker on the control. They've got the touchpad on top. They've moved start and select, non-existent. Now you've got options and share buttons. The light bar on the top. There's so much to this that has changed. Even the charge cable itself, going from the USB 2.0 to the universal charger. It's a huge jump, and I know I say this over and over again. Visually, it doesn't look like it's a crazy change, but once you hold it in your hand, really, you can see how big a step they've taken in the evolution of the controls, where they really haven't had evolution. Adding sticks and then taking the cable away and adding rumble features, but really, you're dealing with the same core control until now.
The 6-axis was a pretty big deal too when it first came out.
Right, having the motion, but truthfully, it turned into kind of a gimmick, because how many games actually really took advantage of it? The only game I can think of that I really used it was Folklore
And Layer.
Folklore, where you're capturing the ids and you got to fish them out and everything. Other than that, I mean, it was just a gimmick, and that's why nobody else really took advantage of it. There was no point, Any racing game that used it was terrible, so.
And remember the cord extensions for the PS1, where you'd get the extra 10 foot of cord? Oh my god, that was annoying.
Do you actually remember the first time they announced the joysticks for this? The first game that was Ape Escape.
Was
it?
it?
The first time that you used a joystick. You actually had to go out, buy an extra controller, because this came with the system first. So you had to actually go out, buy this to play Ape Escape, and literally that was like the greatest thing ever. Like, that was the first time we got to use the joysticks. It doesn't have the rumble.
Was amazing.
Yeah, it doesn't have the rumble feature that these are known for today. But it was just having the joysticks and that fluid motion. It was just crazy.
This is the PlayStation 4. Has the PlayStation logo on the side. Nice shiny top part.
And they all come with Nathan's name on them.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Because I'm awesome. A big feature with the PlayStation 4 now is the ability to be able to play remote play on your PlayStation Vita. You can play almost every title of the PS4 of PS4 on your Vita. You can
Crossplay.
Yeah, crossplay, and you can use this as a second screen. It's very awesome. People were expecting that out of the PS3. Unfortunately, it didn't really take off, but the PS4, it's meant for that. So
It is.
That's it. So make sure you look out for this. Those of you who want it obviously already pre-ordered it, because you can't find it right now. It's out of stock everywhere. Make sure check it out. November 15th, 2013.
Wow.
This is Nathan Buffa.
And Rick King.
And Andy Brookins.
For TheGamersHub.net.
Make sure you like this video, and if you like these videos, there's going to be a lot more. Make sure to follow us, maybe subscribe.
Not maybe, do it.
You better. And like us lots of times. No, don't, because don't get banned. Don't like us lots of times, just once.
Wait, why would we get banned if they like us a lot of
I
times?
don't know. Shut up, Andy.